Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Process That podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Emily Christopher.
And I am Nick Honorkamp.
And we are so glad that you have joined us. Today, we're going to talk about productivity hacks. Things that we do. I'm also even talking to a few people and some tips that they do. And so we're going to pass those along because it seems like we are in a world where there's just a lot going on. And it may be very, very difficult for us to stay focused, for us to get what we need to get done, just because we're being pulled in so many different directions. Our attention spans are dwindling by the hour, it feels like. So Nick and I just want to share some things that have helped us and have helped us become more productive and successful when it comes to work or business.
And then let me ask you a question real quick. Don't you work remotely a day or two a week or periodically?
Yeah, I work 2 remote days and then 3 office days.
Yeah, and I'm work remotely full time. With more and more people working remotely, I would think we need better productivity hacks more than ever, because if you're not careful, you can see the dishes that need to be done or the laundry, or you start working around the house or dealing with all the stuff. And so I think this is timely for us to talk about productivity hacks.
Absolutely. All right. So do you mind if I kick it off?
Oh no, I love it when you lead.
Yay. Okay, I will. So first and foremost for me is having my space. And I've talked about this before. Environment's big to me. I got to have a candle lit. I got to have my space. So you all are, if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing me in the guest room, AKA just my multi-purpose room. There's 2 desks in here. This is where I do my makeup. This is where my office is. You can see my earring display behind me. Like everything, this is just kind of my space to get what I need to get done every day. And it matters to me that it's tidy, you don't look right there. It's organized chaos, okay? But that it's tidy to my level of tidiness that I can think and get stuff done. So one of my top productivity hacks is making sure that the space that I'm working in is going to allow me to have clarity, to stay focused, to stay organized. So that's my numero uno. What about you, Nick? You got one, or would you like to comment?
No, yes, let me comment on the tidy, because I served in the Marine Corps, so I know what it's like to keep a clean ship. I have a little clutter, but like if you get in my car, there's nothing in my car. I don't leave anything in my car. It's completely empty. I like tidy. I love that word you just used, because I wouldn't say my office is clean, but it's tidy. Everything's in its place, nowhere to go. I could never be the person that just leaves I never lose my keys. They're always in one spot. It's the only place I put it. And the easiest way to find something is to be intentional about where you left it. So that's one of the things I do. I'm going to go back a little bit to another podcast you and I did before about starting our week with our to-do list. I'm going to say 2 things that I sort of base my productivity on. I feel like you win the week on the Sunday before when you make your to-do list. And I feel like you win the day with your morning routines. Yeah. So those 2 things, let's talk about that for just a second. You and I both make lists, usually on the weekend. It can be first thing Monday morning, whatever. But I look at everything that's going to be on my plate for the next 7 days. And during that time, I put everything I can think of that needs to be on a to-do list, what I've got to prepare for, and then I divvy it out. You mentioned that your divvies yours out so you have space for replenishing. I jam-pack mine in. I learned from you, and I am trying to do better. I have a day tomorrow I can win. I can get everything done on my list. I can enjoy the day tomorrow because I listen to Emily Christopher. So,
wow.
Yes, I'm a fan of the show. So that's one. And then the other thing I think is important is morning routines, whatever that looks like for you. When I'm doing really well, and I'll be honest, emotionally, I've not been my best recently. So I give myself a little grace right now. But usually my favorite, when I'm at my best, I weigh myself. I measure whether I exercise that day. I keep a spreadsheet. I measure whether or not I ate healthy that day. And I try to get wins by numbers. Like I get 3 points if I weigh myself, if I eat healthy, and if I exercise. And so I try to keep up with my points so that I'm taking care of my health. But then also there was a season of my life that every single day I got up and I read my affirmations about myself. I also read my goals for the year. And then also for a season, I journaled every morning to just sort of get out the things that were running around in my head and in my heart. You start writing and the words just start flowing out. And by the time you're done, you have direction and you're clear. And I feel like that when we remind ourselves of who we are and what we believe in and the beautiful gift we are to this world, there's enough critique out there. If we give ourselves our affirmations in the morning, remind ourselves of our long-term goals, it just frames the day as this is one piece towards a big goal that we have. And I think morning routines are really, really important. And I think that's one of the reasons why I always get my clothes ready and stuff the night before. Because I don't know how I'm going to sleep tonight. I don't know if, something's going to happen. I'm always ready for the next day because I always prepare ahead of time. Now, comment on any of that?
Yes. Absolutely. I agree so much with that. And it's so important to go ahead and set those habits up for when we aren't at our best.
Yeah.
Because I'm right there with you, Nick. Let's have a little counsel real quick. Those of you know, most of you know kind of what Adrian does. I don't really fully know what he does either, but it's okay. He works for the government. And he had to go to Turkey last week. And there's been some political stuff happening there. He was near, like, across the waterways from Syria, and there's just been some turbulence, as there always is. So I had an elevated little case of anxiety. Uh-huh. And I am so thankful that there have been things that I've put into place that are just habitual for me, that keep me grounded. So when I am having an off time, when my emotions are high, when I have just an overwhelming schedule or whatever, that these things at least keep me in a little parameters or boundaries where I'm not spiraling. Mm-hmm. Like, those are so, so important, and those look different for every person. There's some people that they have to be super regimented, and they wake up at 4:30 in the morning and they do 10 things already before 6 a.m. But then there's a few people, if you just have one or two things, that's going to help keep you grounded as well. And so I definitely just echo that morning routine, or any routine that you may have that just keeps you locked in and grounded, I think is essential for when life throws you a curveball, when women, y'all know, when that time of the month is going on, when we are like having a moment, this can at least keep us in a boundary of awareness and just keep us healthy, our minds at ease. Routine really helps us psychologically stay at ease because we know what's going to happen. Because when we're kind of spiraling, it's because we don't know, right? When your anxiety is spiked, it's usually because it's something you can't control and you don't know the outcome. But I know if I wake up at 6 a.m. and I stretch, I go outside for a few minutes, I go on a walk, I come back. Those are things that I can anticipate the outcomes of and I can control. So that's comforting. So I am just echoing yes, yes, yes to the morning routine.
And on the affirmations, I read my affirmations over myself because when I get out into the world, when I run into somebody who does not see who I am, I want to spot it immediately and stay away from that. Somebody who's critical, somebody who's, coarse joking or putting you down in a joking kind of way. If I've already made my affirmations and I've built myself up, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and I bump into that, it makes me tolerate it less and move on past that person quicker. The other thing, is what I do is I know some people like writing things down just so they can cross them off. For me, I'm really close to being that person. But for me, like, I pay the bills once a month. I'm at a place where I can set up all my bills to get paid around the same time. Most of it's an electronic draft. But once a month, I look at the finances. I sit down, I pay all the bills, reconcile the checkbook and all that. And then I do once a month, I do month end where I record all my mileage for the month, all my receipts that I can write off on a housing allowance or whatever. But I do all that in like 2 hours a month. And then I don't think about finances the rest of the month. I just get it all done while I'm looking at it and it's fresh in my mind. I get it all the way done. So I did that this morning and I had to write a check. I haven't had to write a check in a long time, but I had to write a check because I don't have that one on electronic. I literally wrote for my thing tomorrow. I said I have an appointment at 8:30, another appointment at 10, go buy a book of stamps, go mail off this one bill, go deposit in the bank. And I know they're small little things, but something about getting 5 things done in a row, I feel momentum. I feel like I'm accomplishing something. I'll write down small things that I know I'm going to knock out really easy, but it's just, I'm booking it. I'm moving down the list. It gives me energy and motivation. So that's something I always try to do. It's not just put down the 3 big things, but put 7 little things in there, and it helps build up towards the big things.
Yeah, that's that dopamine. It's that
Yeah.
reward. You're like, "Ooh,
Yep.
I'm feeling good. This is all moving and grooving." So yeah, that makes perfect sense. Even those small things, giving yourself some gratification.
Yep.
Awesome.
I
What
love it.
else?
Hey,
What
by
else
the
you got
way,
for us? Oh yeah.
all right, by the way,
Oh.
Free to Focus, Michael Hyatt, powerful book. He talks a lot about there how to automate parts of our life, how to delegate parts of our life. Let me see, I'll think of the other ones in a minute. But he's got like 4 or 5 buckets, and he says, how many, he believes in batching. I love to batch. So if I'm going to be doing admin, like I don't check my email all day long. I check my email in the morning, check my email in the afternoon, because it'll consume you. You're just constantly looking for text messages and looking at your emails and stuff like that, phone calls. And so what I try to do is if I've got admin work, I try to block off 4 hours and do as much admin work as I can possibly do. If I'm going to be in Asheville meeting with people, I batch all my meetings together back to back to back. So one, I'm not languidly getting caught in a 2-hour meeting that should only take 45 minutes. But then also to make sure that if I'm driving, I drive one time. I get to see a bunch of people in the one area. Because, you spend a lot of time driving.
Yeah.
And that's some missed time that you can get. So Michael Hyatt's Free to Focus is all about looking at your calendar, your schedule, you figuring out what works for you, figure out how to delegate some stuff, figure out how to automate some stuff. And I recommend it highly. I've read it several times. I just recommended it 2 weeks ago to a friend. But I highly recommend that to anybody out there who's like, I don't have a system. I don't know what. And the good news is you get to create your own. He's telling you how he does his, but he lets you create your own. But I think most people are not as intentional with their time.
Yeah.
So while we're here for just a second, I heard a quote one time that said, time is more important than money.
Yeah.
Because if you run out of time, it don't matter how much money you have.
Yeah.
But energy is more important than time. Because even if you have time, but you're depressed, you have no energy, it's of no use. We have to manage our time and our energy. It's the most precious commodities that we have. And so being true to ourselves, maybe you're a night person, that's fine. Get done some stuff that's easy, like appointments in the morning, and then crank out your productivity in the evening. Or if you're a morning person, capitalize on that. I don't want to go to the gym first thing in the morning because I'm productive in the morning getting things done. I'd rather take a class at 5 o'clock at night than do it in the morning. So that's something I look at my life as well.
Yeah, no, that is so good. And that leads into one of my things I wrote down, and that is knowing your natural biorhythm.
Yep.
Is when are you productive? And this may take, for those of you, I feel like most people can probably answer that right off the bat. Like they know. They're like, hey, from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m., I can crank out the work. And then there's people, like you said, who are more night people or whatever. So if you don't know that right off the bat, I would journal that or take some kind of note where it's like, oh, you know what? Every day between these hours is when I'm just like getting stuff done. And it's not where you have been forced to get stuff done. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like we're all, America's 9 to 5. This is when you're working. But there's some people like that is not their productive time. And so I've even had a friend who works remote, and she has a very creative job, and she negotiated to have her hours changed.
Mm.
And they were like, "Okay, like you're a night owl," because she was like, "I'm working at night. Like I'm coming in and I'm here in the office, but like I don't get this strike of creativity until after 8 p.m. That's
Yeah.
just how it is." So she actually negotiated, and her like some of her hours are from 8 to midnight, which is like so crazy. But it works for her, and thankfully it
Yep.
works for a company that has allowed her to do that, and her work has increased, her creativity has increased, all this. But anyways, know when your time is. When are you pedal to the metal to the pedal, pedal to the metal? What is the saying? Anyways, um
Pedal to the metal.
but when are you driving that thing?
Yeah.
And just really lean in there. I would block out that time. Like if that's the time where you need to focus, like if you're a writer, that should be your writing time. If you're a client facing person, that's when you should be booking meetings. Like when you have all the energy and the pizzazz and you're supposed to be in front of people, that's when you need to be booking those meetings. Like if that's morning or afternoon, whatever that is. So know your natural biorhythm and lean into that for scheduling out your day.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a morning person, so as soon as I wake up till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I can either do business meetings, I can put together proposals, I can do all my administration stuff or research or whatever, write a grant. I can do all that by 2 o'clock. If I'm going to languidly meet with someone who's not a new customer, but somebody that I just need to meet with, whatever, I prefer after 2 o'clock because I can sit there and chill and just talk. I'll do my laundry in the evening. I don't want to waste morning time doing laundry. I can come home, throw my laundry in, eat some dinner, fold my laundry. And I'm really a little bit anal about my laundry is that I don't want to touch a piece of clothes twice. Okay? That's like
Okay.
so inefficient. So I get like, most people do the big things, but I will not touch a sock until last. Socks are
Oh,
absolutely
okay.
last. No,
Okay.
so you do the jeans and you do the big stuff, the shirts, and you work you down to your workout clothes, and then you get all the way down to your socks. But you do not touch clothes more than once. I will not touch a sock more than once. So I think about these things about how to be efficient in
Yeah.
even the little things.
No, that's great. And again, that's just another small productivity thing, you know? And all that, those tiny minutes, they add up. So there you go. I like it. I like it. What else do you got for us?
All right, so I got two things that are related to each other. All right,
Okay.
so the first one is I had if I have to do a teaching on Wednesday
Mm-hmm.
and I have to do a teaching next Sunday, I will go ahead and work on the teaching for Sunday and get it done to put pressure on myself to do the earlier one second so they're both done before Wednesday. That's a little hack I do on myself that when I sit down, I'm like, if I want to do teaching, if I'm going to do some research and put together some presentations, I'm going to do them all at the same time. I'll start with the last one so that I know that it's done and then cram and get the Wednesday done. And now they're both done and I'm free Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to work on some other stuff.
So you're somebody who likes to have a little pressure, it sounds like.
I create my own. No one has to give me a sense of urgency. I think it's my spiritual gift. I provide a sense of urgency.
Oh, we know. We know. We know.
So a related subject, and you can speak to that,
Uh-huh.
is and by the way, I have somebody in my life right now who provides their own urgency, and I know what it feels like now. And so I'm going to temper that a little bit because this dude is on me all the time. I was like, "Whoa, come on, dude, I got it. So I was listening to a podcast that you recommended for me to listen to, and they were talking about stuff like life hacks and stuff like that. And one of the folks on there said, whatever's the hardest thing for you to do that day, go ahead and do it first. If not, you're going to carry it emotionally all day
Yeah.
long while you're doing the other stuff. That was brilliant. I'm just now trying to work that into my life right now. Is go ahead and look at the hardest thing on the list, face it, get it done. It's out of the way. You can enjoy the rest of your day. Because if not, then you're thinking about it. You're dreading it. You've got anxiety. And I just thought that was a brilliant one that I throw in as I'm talking about how I give myself a sense of urgency.
Well, and it's funny too. A lot of times when we keep putting something off, it takes like 10 minutes to actually do.
I
Like
know, isn't it
it's
sad?
just why do we do that? And it's like everybody I know, there's like this one thing that I mean, I'll tell on myself. So, I've been living in Virginia almost 2 years. And I just now became a Virginia resident and changed my license. Got my new tags, like the whole registered to vote. Listen, honey, I was still driving down to North Carolina to vote. And like, it's just so funny. It was not that big of a deal. It was kind of, I mean, you have to get all this paperwork. Like, I'm like, why do y'all need my birth certificate? Whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny that I kept putting it off. Scheduled my little DMV appointment, was in and out in 30 minutes. And I was like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? I'm so crazy. But yeah, it's just funny how we'll do this. And then my dad was like, Emily, you gotta do this. Like, what the heck? And I was like, you're right. But yeah,
Responsible Greg.
thank God for Greg. Let me tell you one of my hacks
Okay.
that I don't think you do, and I think it's going to be kind of unique. I mean, it's not unique to a lot of people, but I think to you it will be. Maybe
Okay.
not. So I have done this my entire life, and I just now found the term for it. It's called body doubling. And my entire life, the most productive I've ever been studying, working, like doing any kind of project is if there is just somebody else sitting in the room with me. They don't have to talk to me, interact with me at any kind. They just have to be there. This shows you how painfully extroverted I am. And I am going to be like 100 times more productive. So I didn't know this. My friends would laugh at me in college, any kind of task. If I was packing for a trip, I would invite a friend over to sit in my room with me while I packed. And of course, if they're there and I'm doing a mundane task like that, like we would talk and catch up. But I do it at work now. Our marketing suite is very much, we joke and say we're like Google because everybody just we all have our little separate offices, but we end up all in one person's office, like 3 or 4 of us huddled around one desk, not talking, just sitting there working. But it's apparently something that most people with ADHD have, or it's like something that helps them. But yeah, it is called body doubling, and it's simply having the presence of another person in the room with you, and you feel like you can be more productive.
That's amazing to me because I've done that my whole life. I'm an
Okay.
extrovert. And so, the job I just left, I was not big on the environment in the office, and it wasn't anybody's fault. It's just I just didn't like the environment in the office. It didn't feel conducive to what I'm in the people business, and so get interrupted a lot, stuff like that. So I had several coffee houses in Asheville that I love to go to. So almost every morning you could find me at a coffee house with a bunch of other people sitting around. And I love just, I'm working away on my computer, look up, watch somebody walk down the street, because Asheville's got every animal in the zoo. And you're like, that person's interesting. And then you go back to work and stuff. I don't stick me in the woods for a week and ask me to get stuff done. I would not do well in a cabin by myself. In the mornings, I'm in a cafe. In the afternoons, I'm at a restaurant that they know that I always get to the corner table. They leave me alone. And I'm better with people around me, all that distracting me. You would think it would be counterproductive.
Right.
But the micro distractions give my brain time to catch up to what I was just getting ready to do. And I'm way more productive than if you just sit me by myself in a room.
So there you go. You're body doubling too.
I didn't know it.
Yeah. So the whole coffee shop thing is huge. It's what a lot of people, if they work remotely, but they need to leave their house some people who work remote, they have to leave their house every day. They're like, I just can't hang out at the house, which It's just funny because Adrian could lock himself in the house and not leave for 2 years and he'd be fine.
That
Um,
is so funny.
but yeah, no, I have to go out and see other people. I could maybe do 2 days. And then I'd be like, okay, gotta see the world. But yeah, it's just fascinating. Like, and I feel like I've turned my graphic designer into that because she used to just stay in her little office and work and be left alone. And now she's like, can I come in here and sit? And I'm like, yes, of course. But it's just funny how like the whole body doubling thing and collaborative working, even though you're not necessarily working on the same thing, but it's just, I don't know, it's the oddest thing, but it has been extremely productive for me my whole life to body double.
Have you seen these cafes or breweries that have an extra room off to the side that people can rent as like a
Mm-hmm.
co-op office space?
Yeah.
I seen one recently. I didn't know they existed, and evidently they're popping up everywhere
Yeah.
for those who work from home. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want a place to go, you go to the coffee house. There's a silent room that has a desk, maybe a couple chairs, and you get to use it as much as you want with a monthly subscription. You can go in there and you can type up emails and you can get your work done. If there's another person in the room, you just got to be respectful of the other person if they're on the phone, stuff like that. And then if you're like traveling and you're just in town for 3 days, you can like just rent the room for 3 days and it lets you have an office space environment in a public setting. I think that's brilliant for this new movement of remote working.
Oh yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of that here. There's a couple of there's a couple of brands, but Gather is one of them.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. Like they do a great job. Like it's really beautiful workspaces and you can rent however big or small if you just need like one conference room or whatever or like a solo little spot. It's really fascinating. But yeah, the whole idea that there is an option to just be around people and be productive without it taking away, but really adding to some people's work productivity is really interesting.
Well, one thing that's interesting is my son, my 28-year-old son, Hayden Luke, he is data analytics and works from home. And about 6 months ago, he and I attended a nonprofit training. And it was random. I was one of the presenters. He was showing up with a friend, and we sat with each other. And at lunchtime, he and I sat with four men in their 70s for lunch. And they start talking about how we got to get workers back in the office. We got to be able to see if they're working. We got to manage them. We got to see if they're at their desk, moving some papers around. And Hayden looks like, why? Why do we want to waste the expense of brick and mortar, making everybody come in from 9 to 5, sit at a desk? And he said, why can't we just work from home? And one of the guys said, well, I've heard a story of one guy that was working from home and he was actually working two different jobs full time, working from home and getting paid twice as much as he should have been getting paid. And Hayden looks like, well, if he can get the work done that you've asked him to do. And they're like, no, we need him in the office. We can see that he's working full time for us, 40 hours a week. And Hayden's like, or you can manage him by goals. And what if their best work is from 8 to 12 at night?
Yeah.
Why not let them work from 8 to 12? Why not let them work from a coffee house? And it's productivity. It's moving away from that conformity model into an individuality model where you can just do what's best for you. But I would surmise, Emily, that most of us don't know ourselves well enough to even know how to make ourselves more productive, right?
Yeah. That, and once we do know, we don't know how to advocate for ourselves in the workspace. To be able to be like honest and be like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm actually sitting in this office all day. Like, yeah, I'm getting some stuff done. But man, when I get home and the sun goes down, I just start cranking out the work, and to have that conversation and to be which we'll have a whole nother episode on this coming up about bosses and leaders. Like, are we being receptive to people who work very differently than us, but they're still getting it done? That's the thing. Like, if somebody's crushing a goal, why do you care? If they work from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. or 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., like, why does it matter? Because if that's their lifestyle and it's better for them and things are moving and grooving and we're crushing stuff, then why not? Why not? It's crazy because it's just not normal.
Yep. Well, and I respond to that only to say that my whole adult life, I've always had an 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job, always had a steady paycheck. And with that, what happens is it's almost like they own you in as much as you can produce during those hours, right? And now I'm a consultant and I have multiple clients, no 8 to 5 whatsoever. And so now I'm free to figure out which client needs work done now, what hours I'm going to work, and how I'm going to stage that. And although you lose the steady paycheck, I love the fact that I get to decide this one's going to take 10 hours, this one's going to take 12 hours. I'm going to go ahead and do all their work in one weekend and get that taken care of. And it's cool being able to work anywhere you want to work, whichever hours you want to work, in the order you want to work, and get the jobs done. And they're paying me a good chunk of change for a short amount of time for concentrated energy. And I love that. Then I get to put my hands in something brand new the next day. And I personally love that and hope I never go back to working an 8 to 5. And that's just for me. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm a risk taker. So I don't mind not knowing if I'm getting paid tomorrow or not. I bet on myself. And that's one of the things I've always respected about you, is that you always bet on yourself, and you've always come out on the backside of that successful, even if you made a mistake and recovered and learned from it. And so I love this new model where we're getting to work from home and on measurable goals instead of on how many hours you sit in the office and whether you're pushing paper around or not. Help me, Jesus.
Yeah. It is good. And I hope that more and more, I think most modern companies, organizations definitely have taken that step. And I'm hoping those that are a little behind the times, they'll start seeing the benefits and seeing that it can be done. It can be done in the modern world. As we're talking about time, I do have one more. Do I have one more on here? Two more. Let me check. One small thing.
Okay.
That I'm very passionate about, and that is putting your phone on Do Not Disturb. Like, my phone, and I work in social media and I work in digital marketing, so most of my stuff is done on this thing, but I have got to hit the Do Not Disturb button. And it's cool now because if you have an iPhone, you have different Do Not Disturb tabs. Like you can do one just for work. And it's funny, when I pull into my office, iPhone knows where I'm at, of course. And it goes, would you like to activate Do Not Disturb work? And I'm like, yes, I would. Just because we are so distracted by our phones. Everybody has access to us all the time. And what's great is if you do have the feature of Do Not Disturb, you can select who can reach you. So like, obviously my mom and Adrian's mom can get in touch with me at any time. Like I have that set. But anybody else who's just sending me a meme or a TikTok or something that will distract me in my productive hours, no, it's on Do Not Disturb, and I will check it later. And we'll get distracted later when I've done what I needed to get done. So I highly encourage you, for those times that we've talked about, those like natural biorhythm times, make sure that you hit the Do Not Disturb. You got to put some boundaries down, and you need to block off that time and be serious about it. Because it's so easy. Oh my gosh, especially for myself. Like it's so easy to get distracted and pulled into a million different directions. And so set up those boundaries with your family, friends, coworkers, whatever, where that time is sacred and you are getting done that list, those goals, whatever it may be.
So can I ask you a technical question?
I would love to answer it.
Is Do Not Disturb the same as airplane mode?
No.
Because I don't know where that's at on my phone.
Oh Lord Jesus! If y'all only knew this man. Let me say this. Nick, you're cool. You are cool. Okay, you're cool. But my gosh, this man, he don't know nothing about no technology. Like it is unreal. I'm gonna blame Caleb and Hayden for this. Y'all should have helped your dad out. I have to help my parents out 24/7. It feels like. Even this morning, I like called my mom and I was trying to walk her through something and I was like, oh my Lord. But we got to do that. So Caleb and Hayden, I'm calling you out. Step it up and help your pops. But
Love it.
airplane mode like shuts everything off. Like there's no Wi-Fi. Like it's basically like your phone is turned off with it still being on.
Yeah.
But no, do not disturb is great because you can customize like the time frame it's on. Who can still like, you want to keep Tina on there, right? Like you want to be like, okay, the only person whose phone call will go through or whose text will go through is Tina during this time or whoever else.
Yeah.
So yeah, next time I see you,
Okay.
I'll give you a tutorial.
Do you remember the first time you cleaned the history off my phone?
Oh my
Do you remember
gosh.
something was going on my phone and you said, well, try clearing your history. And I said, I have no idea how to do that. And you're like, give me your phone. And then you said, I hope there's nothing bad on
It's
this
like,
phone.
can I have this?
Yeah. And there wasn't. And you were just going, and it went on for like 5 minutes. But you were like, I cannot believe you didn't know how to clear your history off of your phone or shut down apps.
It was clearing your apps because you were like,
Clear my apps.
You're like, my phone's battery is terrible, and I just got this phone, and I was like, well, are you turning your apps off, like clearing them when you're done with them?
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Y'all, this man had every single app. There's like literally 40 apps that were open, and they were they were all just running. They were all just running.
Yeah.
I was like, oh Lord. So implement technology to help you be more productive.
I love that. Great job. Now you said you had a little one and a big one. You got one last big one?
Let's see here. Got them all written down. This is from Adrian.
Okay, good.
So I asked him because, of course, he's always like, what's the topic this week? And I was telling him productivity, and he goes, oh, well, I've got one. And I was like, well, great. So, for people that, definitely work in more of a technical job or, just something where maybe even writing or whatever, he does a 45-minute, like just head down, cranking out 45 minutes of solid work. And then for the last 15 minutes of the hour, he does something using the right side of his brain. So, and this can work both ways. Like if you have a more creative job, then maybe do something more technical. So you're just always kind of switching around your brain, keeping yourself fresh. So, like when he's doing a lot of like engineer math kind of stuff, then he will switch and he's like, all right, I'm going to go ride my bike, and like move my body. So that's kind of like getting some other things on the other side of my brain or activating my body. If he's doing something more creative, like more of design stuff or trying to do that, then for that 15 minutes, he'll do something technical, like a puzzle or something like that to kind of get the brain just staying fresh. So I thought that was very interesting. So yeah, 45 minutes of just like head down, cranking it out, focus, and then 15 minutes either stepping outside, walking, a puzzle, something creative, stretching, I don't know, just changing it up. And I know some people do this, but they do like 2-hour blocks and then 15, 30 minutes or whatever. So I think finding the rhythm that you need, because each person's going to be very different. But I loved that. I was like, oh, that's really nice and you also have something to look forward to. If you're like, all right, I'm going to get this task done and then I get to go outside. I thought, hey,
so
that's nice.
I read a book on how to write a book, and it said that you have a scribe and a muse that lives inside of you. And if you can get to let the muse come out and be creative and begin to write down some of the things you want to write about, begin to tell the story, and then you might get to a place where now you need to do some research. So you set the muse aside, and the scribe goes and researches, starts putting some pieces together. And it says subconsciously the muse gets time to think and allow ideas to emerge that it could not. It was already exhausted from the last streak. It needs a few minutes as the scribe is doing its thing. How many times have we been going from one meeting to the other meeting? We get in the other meeting and we pop out and we're like, oh, I had this great idea. But you didn't have it when you were working on it this morning. You had it later in the day when you weren't thinking about it. And then the muse came forward and had some fresh ideas for the scribe to work on. And I really do think that's true. When I'm doing a training or a teaching, I've got one that I'm doing for next Friday night. I took 5 minutes. I'm a finisher, by the way. If I start it, I will finish it. Mm-hmm. So I sat down for 5 minutes and began writing it. It's not even on my schedule yet, but I began writing it because once I started, I will finish it. But number two, we're talking about love. And I said, I guarantee you, I'll find a quote on love. Somebody will tell me something about love. Once I open that door and then turn my head somewhere else, the muse will start working on that and find new information to pull in. And so brilliant, Adrian, brilliant.
Yeah, good stuff. And I love that imagery of the scribe and muse. Like, I think that's really cool. And just allowing our brains to breathe, I think, is so important. And that kind of goes back to the constant distraction and constant overstimulation of stuff. We just sometimes need to like pause and let our creativity or let our minds wander, whatever that looks like, because we're going to get different solutions when we are shifted into a place of rest or into a place where we're not having to forcefully come up with a solution.
So one last thing is you and I discovered this when we were on staff with each other. I would have liked to have thought I would have figured this out 20 years earlier, but I didn't. I would say to people who do meetings that somebody needs to take a couple of notes to bullet point what happened in the meeting and who needs to get that bullet point. Because we would have meetings, like I'd have a meeting with the elders, and then I'd start running off the information I had that I'd met with the elders, but the rest of the staff didn't meet with the elders, so they didn't know what was going on. So they're constantly lack of communication, miscommunication. I don't think the meeting's done until the notes have been published. So if you said we decided on 3 things and we're investigating 2 more things that we haven't decided on, just put those 5 things in a quick email. Say, who needs to know this? All the staff. Okay, great. Send out the email. But the meeting's not over until all the people that need to know the information that was decided on that meeting actually get looped in. And I think that's a real important key most organizations do not do. And it's something that I want to do in future leadership development, is making sure that the right people get the right information. And that was it.
That's good. That is good. Especially the larger your team or organization is, those things are critical. Not just like a nice thing. It's critical to do that. So I love it. Well, Nick, I think we've covered some good stuff. I think I've got some takeaways.
I've been productive.
He's been productive. Awesome. Well, we would love to hear from you guys. What are some productivity hacks that you guys do? What helps you stay on track, help you stay focused, helps you get the job done? I love this from every standpoint, whether it's a corporate business tactic or whether it's a stay-at-home mom who's juggling getting her family organized and prepared. Like, there's so many things that we can all learn from each other. So please email those to us, comment, DM, whatever it may look like. We want to hear from you guys. Thank you to Caleb Honorkamp, who has written and produced this incredible music that you guys hear at the beginning and end of our podcast. Thank you to our producer, Adrian Wos. Thank you for all of our stunning photography by Allison Frost, aka Before the Foundations Photography. We want to connect with you guys, so make sure you're following us on all social media platforms, that you have liked and subscribed. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streamed. And we hope you have a fantastic week, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.